Okay, so I did a short on a deal that I came across in doing some research on comps on development sites that sold, and it landed me actually in the Bronx, and I came across this site. Like I said, I did a short on it, but I think this is warranted for a longer video. It's a very interesting deal. So the site is it's a historic post office in the Bronx, and it's basically a block through. It's a whole block. So this is it here. It's 558 Grand Concourse. And this is the site here. It's a whole square block. And it sold last year for $44 million to a developer who primarily does, from my understanding, residential development, MAD Equities, MADDD Equities. Um, and like I said, I found it very interesting for a couple of reasons. One, the fact that it is a historic landmark. So essentially, computer's acting a little bit slow, but should work out hopefully. So this is the street view of it here. So this is a landmarked building. So they can't really do anything to the exterior. And also interesting is that inside there's some murals that they can't change either. So, and so you got these large windows here, and so they really can't do much. You can, because of the interior portion of it, you can't even like change, I don't think you can do much like real renovation. You can't really build up, from my understanding. So the deal that happened here is between the new owner, the developer, and they got a deal with Hostos. I believe that's the way you pronounce it, Hostos University. And that's a community college, part of the CUNY system of New York. And this is News 12 here at the Bronx. Just showing, I guess, just doing a story here. So I'll play a little bit of this. I hope it'll play the whole thing, but I'll play a little bit of it.
Has finally sold for $44 million. This after a deal to sell the property fell through about 5 years ago. News 12's Jody Juliana Powell has more on the plans for this space.
MAD Equities bought this building that spans an entire block on the Grand Concourse for a whopping $44 million. The real estate developer has built more than 5,000 affordable units across the city, according to their website. MAD Equities has not yet released what they plan on doing with this building, but in a statement, the CEO tells us, the Bronx General Post Office is a true gem of the South Bronx and fits perfectly with our company's long-standing commitment to restore and revitalize significant.
So that was the CEO. At the time, that story was from last year, July 17th, 2025. So since then, they have released like what they're doing, like late last year, like September. So essentially, like I said, this the community college is going to be essentially leasing the property from this developer. So they're going to be doing, from my understanding, 4 stories, I think. But before I even get there, what was interesting before this sale was what happened before. So it actually sold, if you look here, this is Property Shark. So it sold in 2014. So I believe that the post office, the post office owned it prior to 2014. I don't know when they acquired the property. I mean, the post office has been here since 1935. So they sold it though to a private entity in 2014 for $19 million. And then 11 years later, that private entity sold it to another private entity for $44 million. So they, that's a good profit margin that they made. And they obviously, charged the post office rent in the meantime while they held on to it. They were supposed to develop it into like a food court or food mall or something like that. And it never panned out. I guess that's what the reporter was alluding to on that previous that news story from News 12. So last year, Mad Equities bought it under this LLC, BPO owner LLC, that's Mad Equities, for 44 million. And again, it's tough because it's landmarked, you're really limited to what you can do. You cannot demolish the building. And then on top of that, you're limited to what you can do on the inside because of these murals that they have. I'm not sure if I can show a picture of the murals, but what's very interesting is what this developer was able to pen together. And if you look, you see Hostos Community College is actually right here. I didn't even realize that until I'm looking at this on Property Shark. So that building next door is the community college. Again, I'm not from the Bronx. I just came across this deal in doing some research, just looking at all over the city for deals and deals that have happened, like things that have sold as development sites and things like that. So that's how I came across this one. But so for 44 million. Now, the deal with Hostos is, and this is public record, is that the developer is going to, they purchase the property, but they're also going to renovate the property. And after they renovate it, they are going to lease it. Hostos is going to lease it back from them, starting at $15.5 million per year with 3% annual increases. It's a 35-year lease, 3% annual increases, right? And this is how it breaks down. So essentially, they're saying for just to occupy the property, $64 per square foot. And on top of that 64, they're throwing $13 per square foot for operating costs. Now, what operating costs are, I'm not super sure. I'm not sure if that is going to include property taxes, but I'm going to do some back of the napkin math here for another reason. But essentially, so you got 64 plus 13, that gives you $77 per square foot. And in the document, it also states that it's going to be a condo structure. So essentially, I think there's going to be two things there. There's going to be the condo, which is for the school, for the college, and that's going to consist of 192,000 square feet, right? And then there's reports saying that the post office is still going to be there, and that will be 10,000 square feet on the first floor, right? So this is how it breaks down. You got 58,000 on the ground floor, 37,000 on the first floor, 48,000 on the second floor, 34,000 on the third, and 12,000 on the fourth floor. That's how it breaks down, and they're renting that for $77 per square foot. So if you do the math at 192, 491 times 77, that gives you a little shy of $15 million. And that essentially is the 15.5. I'm not super sure what the 15.5 is, the 0.5, but it's in that range, right? Plus they're doing 3% escalation. Now, the other very interesting part of this is that they have a purchase option. So the university says here in the agreement, the university shall have a fixed option to purchase the building together with the land there under any time until year 5 of the leasehold condominium term, 12 months with 12 months advance. Written notice at a 5% capitalization rate. So again, super interesting. So the college can buy it from the developer. So they're leasing it. There's a 35-year lease. And then up to year 5, they can purchase it at a 5 cap. Now, essentially what that means, and that's subject to the next year's future operating income. So let's do a little back of the napkin math here and just kind of figure out what that means. So essentially, the cap rate is going to determine the value of the property, and the cap rate is essentially your well, the value is going to be determined. So your net operating income is going to be, you divide that by your proposed cap rate, and that will give you the value of what it's already predetermined here by, they're looking for a 5% capitalization rate. So let's just assume that at 15.5 million, I'm just using my calculator here, and let's just take, and I'm not even going to count the post office, because the post office is going to be renting 10,000 square feet of that. I'm going to leave that out for a second. But let's just assume that 15.5, and in that 15.5, they have expenses there that the tenant, which is the college, is paying. But I'm still going to say I'm going to take off 20%. Let's just say that property taxes aren't included, insurance, any other miscellaneous tax. I'm going to take off expense, I should say. I'm going to take off 20% from that 15.5 million. So I'm going to times this 15.5 times 0.8, which is essentially taking 20% off. And that should give me my net operating income, which is $12.4 million. So now to get to the value of what the purchase option could be, unless this, again, this is before any escalation. So if in year 2, 3, 4, you know, it's not going to be 15.5 anymore. It's going to be that escalation at 15.5 times, you could do it times 1.03. So essentially after year 1, they're going to be adding another $465,000 and that 3% escalation. So the second year of this lease, it's not 15.5 anymore. It's 15.965. It's closer to $16 million. So again, let's just assume they opt to, which, now that I think about it, is the least amount that they could base that cap rate on, because they're basing on the next year income. It says right here, the next future year's net operating income, right? So technically it's 16 million that they'd be basing, you'd be doing that cap rate from. So let's do that instead. So 16 million times 0.8. I'm taking 20% off for expenses. That leaves me with 12.8, right? Net operating income. Again, this is just super basic. I don't really know what the expenses will be there, but I think that's pretty, I think that's okay. That's a good number to go off, is 20%. Considering, you know, what kind of use it is, and it's one tenant, technically 2 tenants that more than likely are going to be paying every, you know, their own utilities, obviously, and I'm not sure if they're going to be using that much water or things like that, but yeah, I think 20% is good. So we're at 12.8% net operating income. Now that 5 cap, you're just going to divide that by 0.05. And that gives me, the calculator is not even long enough for this, but this gives me $256 million. So technically speaking, after this is built and the college occupies it, they have the option to buy it for about $250 million, $256 million. Now, how much did the developer take? You already know that they spent $44 million to purchase just the building. Then on top of that, they have to renovate it. In the agreement, it actually states here, that's interesting as well. In the agreement, it states here that the developer has to build it out. Right here, owner at sole cost and expense shall deliver the premise with new turnkey build out. Owner's work shall include the university's fixture and equipment, computer systems, phone systems, security systems, and any information technology systems, or an allowance for the same. Interesting. So, you know, they're like, listen, they want something that's completely turnkey in order for them to pay this $15.5 million per year. Now, there's some other behind the scenes things going on here. This is from September 2020, I'm sorry, September 3rd, 2025, when Eric Adams was still the mayor. And it says here that, you know, they're saying that the college is coming in. City University of New York has announced 12.3 million in funding to lease a new space. So I guess however they sliced it, whatever they did, and obviously there's a difference between 12.3 and 15.5. So I guess since then they worked out an agreement to raise the annual rent. And this has funding. This doesn't say anything about like it being an annual rent, but whatever it is, they're getting $15.5 million as the base rent, and it's going to be escalated 3% every year for 35 years. So, what I was saying here. So, oh, it also mentions what I was getting to. So, 70 million, it's going to cost an estimated $70 million to renovate the property to get it to that standard of turnkey so the college can rent it, which does track to me because if you do the math, right, you're at 192,000 square feet that they need to renovate. I'm sorry, if you do 70 million divided by 192, oops, I'm sorry, I was messed up. 70 million divided by 192,000 square feet. That's $364 per square foot to renovate that building, which is kind of in line with the hard construction costs for a new development building as of like right now. Maybe a little bit less for a new development, but again, it's kind of tricky because they have to work with this landmark status. They have to keep everything outside the same. They got to build floors inside, right? And maintain that interior of the building. So they're like murals inside they have to maintain. So that does sound about right. So the developer is in for 44 million, right? Plus the 70 to renovate. So that's $114 million that the developer is in that project for. And obviously this is, you know, financed through various ways, right? But what they're saying is the the developer can just, you know, hold on to it and collect that $15.5 million in rent. Or if the college chooses to, they can buy it. And the minimum, I'm going to end up saying that their minimum they're going to end up buying that building for is about 250, at least double that 114 minimum. So again, it's a very, very interesting deal. You know, again, I kind of stumbled on it. I didn't know about it. I don't, you know, didn't see the story when it actually broke that it sold for 44 million. But looking into it, I realized that it was a very interesting deal that these guys, Mad Equities, bought. So yeah, that's about it. I want to make more videos like this. So stay tuned in. This is the Arm Broker channel. Should have mentioned that at the top, but yeah, so that's it. Oh, and kudos to Mad Equities for putting this deal together. This is a pretty, like I said, it's a pretty interesting deal that they were able to put together. Good for them. And good for the community too. All right, later.